If you're a man over 40 looking for ways in which you can improve your overall health and strength through fitness training, cardiovascular training, and water fasting, and some other interesting bits, then this is the episode for you. Hello, my name is iAntonio.media, coming to you for another episode of the English Coach Podcast, where we add a splash of color and life to your learning experience. Now, today's episode is part of the Life is Feeling category, and we'll be hosting an interview of sorts with a good friend of mine, Dr. Christopher Schneeweiss, who is a cardiologist. Now, as I said, it has to do with men over 40, and we'll be looking at different fitness aspects, things that you can do that will be of benefit to you and are tax-free. Can you imagine? Anyway, Dr. Christopher Schneeweiss is going to be looking at all of this from a more medical point of view, from a more scientific lens, so to speak. But as I always say, there are other ways of knowing. And I'll be adding to this whole conversation with insight from my own experience as someone who has been into fitness training for the past 20 years, and also from my experience with water fasting, which I sometimes do for 3 days, 10 days, or 21 days. The episode promises to be absolutely fantastic, and it's a kind of a reunion of sorts. The first thing we touch on is the body's response to whole foods versus its response to highly processed foods, and we also touch on a little bit on epigenetics. We talk about weight loss and some of the politics behind waste and sustainability as it relates to consumption and overconsumption, and a lot of DIY, do-it-yourself solutions you can undertake for yourself, also tax-free, by yourself at home. Well, as I said, the episode is going to be great, and another thing that we talk about is the effect on your growth hormone levels and testosterone levels from fasting, water fasting, strength training, and cardiovascular training. Now, this episode is actually part of a series that I started a few months back having to do with water fasting. If you're interested in getting some background information, again, from the lived experience, the things that I've gone through, how I felt, what I did, and so on, you can check that out simply by subscribing to the show. You will see the fasting series. And the good thing about this episode with the good doctor today is that there are other people from the gym where I train here in Schöneberg, Berlin, who have promised also to come on and talk about their experiences. A few young ladies, well, not really a few, but 2 young ladies have promised to come on to the show, and another man who is quite successful, from his appearance and what I see him doing at the gym, what he's achieving, and he should be coming on. He's also over 40, and he will also add some more insight to this whole conversation a little bit later. Now, another thing that we talk about is the idea, the notion of cellular age. We just touch on that a little bit, and that has to do with the measurable age based on particular indicators that are observable within the cell. And this is also then compared to various health practices, and we look at, some of the things that affect this. Of course, Christopher invited me to talk a little bit about my own services. As some of you know, I am an English trainer with my own platform, located also at iAntonio.com. If you go to the website, you will find the show notes, the podcast, and also a link that says training. So if you're interested in training, or anyone else you know is interested in training, just share the link with them. I'd be very happy for that. Another thing that we talked about from my perspective was my own health indicators that might be interesting to you, could also be helpful to you. Indicators such as blood pressure and lipid level. These are the things that are helpful in determining, where you find yourself. It gives you a baseline, so to speak, a frame of reference that you can use to also track your progress. The leading cause of death, which might be surprising to some of you. I was surprised myself. And we also touched on Christopher's, let's say, his starter episode. I think from memory it was episode 8. The link to that will also be in the show notes. You can check it out. This is a cross promotion. That means, us as podcasters, we have to support each other, so he has been a guest on my show, and hopefully in the future, I will be a guest on his. So do head on over to the show notes, and you will see a link to his podcast. And, I cordially invite you, I implore you to check it out because, if you're interested in this content, then you'll also be interested in his. Now, you can access the show notes in your podcast player. Just press information. And when you see all of that description there will be a link that will take you to the official show notes page. Another bonus on the official show notes page is what I like to call video exclusives. And these are in a video format. So if you're interested and you want to get a little more insight, a more in-depth impression of how we interact with each other and derive more meaning from our conversation, do feel free to head on over to the show notes pages at iAntonio.com and just look for this episode, and you will be able to watch videos that are only published there. Later on in the episode, we playfully say that this one of hundreds of episodes is just for the men. And of course, Christopher was also playfully defending his position that, what he does is also for the women. The title is going to stay the same, but, if, you as a woman, if you're a woman out there and you want to listen to this episode, of course you can. You're also invited to do it, but the title is going to stay the same. The focus is on men because, I'm speaking from my experience and I'm not privy to the complete female experience. There are some differences. Now, the last two things that we spoke about were the so-called VO2 max model or system of measurement that also gives you a kind of baseline, the amount of oxygen your body can or is in the position to process, measuring that as some kind of basis and let's say tracking your fitness, your physical fitness based on that. Christopher explains it much better, but if you're interested, stick around and this is going to come towards the end of the episode. We also talk about a recommended mix of strength training and cardiovascular training for optimal health. Okay, so that was it. That's what you can expect in this episode. It promises to be absolutely fantastic. As I said, I really hope you stick around and do feel free to send your feedback in anywhere you see the little promotions or anywhere you see the podcast, anywhere you listen. Feel free also to share it with your friends. Okay, so that was it, the meta of this episode. And without further ado, on with the show. It's really nice to have you here. I've looked forward to this for quite a while, Christopher, as I promised. Hopefully we will be able to touch on cardiovascular health. And I wanted to focus on men over 40. And I wanted to also talk about sports, as in strength training, and the intermittent fasting or prolonged fasting. These are the three topics.
Okay. Thank you for your invitation.
That's a lot.
There are a lot of topics. I hope we can cover them all in the scheduled time. So.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to give you a proper introduction. You are a friend of mine. I met you in Berlin, first of all, many years ago. And, we've got...
You were my teacher.
But I didn't want to touch on that right now. But, since you already did, yes, it was, what was it? Work-related English, yes?
It was to improve my English. And
yes,
you were my teacher to improve English for international speaking. And
yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think I mentioned in our WhatsApp chats recently that you were actually the one who introduced me to TED Talks. Yes, you were the first one to introduce me to that.
Oh, okay.
And also to WhatsApp. Yeah, you told me about this.
To WhatsApp?
Yes, to this fantastic.
It's a brand new.
It was very well. Now everybody knows how long ago that was. Yeah, you said to me that there's this really cool app, and I should check it out. Yeah, and
Okay.
I hesitated for a little bit, and then I finally did. No, we're still there communicating with each other on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's so many other apps where you can communicate. Actually, I have 3 running apps for something similar.
I have quite a few. Well, whatever the case is, I met you. Yes, I was teaching you at the time, helping you to improve your English because, you were already quite fluent, but you had the ambition to improve.
I doubt it.
and that was good. That was good. I commend that. Yeah, you were in Schöneberg at the time, ne? Schöneberg, Berlin.
In Schöneberg, and after that, I guess we met in Friedrichshain.
Friedrichshain,
It was
yes, that is true. Close to Ostkreuz or Ostbahnhof.
exactly very close to Ostkreuz.
Yeah. Yes, I remember those
200
days.
meters. Yeah. Still a nice area.
Yes, I remember being very envious of your wonderful apartment.
Oh, thank you.
I was very envious of that. Well, whatever the case is, I take it that you are still a cardiologist. Yes,
Yes.
that is your profession. And you also have a podcast which looks at cardiovascular health and some of the things that can affect us, things that we should be careful of, and probably signs that you can pay attention to, for
Yeah, the
problems.
podcast is about explaining cardiovascular issues, diseases to common people
Mhm.
without medical background.
Yes.
So makes the explanation more easier to get. So that
Yes,
everybody
accessible,
can
you could say.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Now you know why you are my teacher.
Well, English is mine, and I always say I promise perfection only in my own language. So, I
That's good.
don't really expect perfection from anyone who doesn't have English as a native language. Yeah. So, as long as we
Perfection
understand.
Perfection is the enemy of good.
Yes, it's the enemy of many things. Yeah. All right. So you're a cardiologist, and I have great respect for that profession. Of course, I think about my heart as well. My father passed away more than a few months ago, a little over a year and a half ago, and, cardiovascular issues as well. He had a cardiac arrest. And
so maybe we should talk about your heritage maybe a bit later in private.
My situation. Well, I don't know.
Maybe some good.
Okay. Yes. Of course we could. But I'm doing my best. I try to keep fit. I eat basically healthily. I do lots of sports and also weights training, as you know.
Yes, you told me.
And these things I think help with preserving the health of my heart, I think.
Yes, that's definitely true.
And my only source of heartbreak these days is my cat called Kitty. So I'm also safe on the emotional side as well.
Okay. That's also so very important for the heart to be safe on the side, I guess.
Yes.
There are some heart conditions which can break up. There's really a disease which is called the broken heart syndrome.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well,
or
yeah.
In 2%, it's called the happy heart syndrome.
The happy heart. Okay. I think I've heard of that. Vaguely, I can remember.
My podcast.
Uh-huh.
There's one episode about the broken heart syndrome.
Do you remember what episode it is?
I guess it's episode 8 or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll be sure to link it in the show notes, so anybody who's interested can always have a listen. And you're in Spotify as well, no? Of course.
Spotify, I guess. Spotify, Apple, YouTube,
everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yes. Yeah. Well, same here. I'll be sure to link that one because it sounds very, 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 very interesting. Compelling, intriguing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good start for a lot of people. Well, you know what? I just wanted to say this as well. Most of my listeners are German people. Yes, people in Germany. And nothing is wrong. I make no apologies for switching between English and German, code switching. It's fine. No apologies. Most of the people can understand both languages. So if I get to a point where I am speaking in German, but it gets very complicated, then I switch to my own language. And please feel free to do the same if you feel the need to do that. Okay? Yeah. Okay. It's perfectly fine. All right. So coming back to the topics were fitness for men over 40. Yes, and
Yes.
fasting and cardiovascular health. Now, from when you think of all these three topics, right? What is the first thing that comes to mind, or how would you start such a conversation?
With the patient or in general?
Well, in general, for my listeners, for your listeners, anybody who's just general, my people are interested in the fasting and probably the fitness.
Okay. I would say most important to current science is maybe the fitness. Starting from the fitness point, then you can go further. You told me about strength training,
Mm-hmm.
because you have maybe to separate fitness, which is maybe endurance based and is measured commonly with the so-called VO2 max, which is an value which can you measure to see how many oxygen
Mm-hmm.
you can use in a minute per body weight kilogram. So
Ah.
it's how many it should be correct.
Okay.
It's
So it could be
so this
how many units of oxygen you use according to your body weight. Oder auf Deutsch gesagt, also wie viel Sauerstoff man brauchen sollte, je nach Körpergewicht.
so ungefähr kann man das sagen. Ja, also wie viel Sauerstoff man verarbeiten kann. So, and that's very important. We know from studies that the higher the VO2 max value is, the better the outcome, which means longevity,
Mhm.
health outcome.
Mhm.
So there's good relationship in those between this value
Mhm.
and overall of diseases.
Mhm. Mhm.
So this is good, but this is not all, because we have learned in the last years that there is also strength training important. Um, you talking about fitness training, men over 40, and we know that each human gets a so-called sarcopenia, which means loss of muscle mass, which starting around the year of 40, then increasing with the years. So if you think about strength training, you want to improve your strength and your muscle mass. And if you thinking about the decline of muscle mass in the years and in the decades, then you should train harder as getting older. So
Yes, 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 it's good. Also, I tell people all the time that I go to the gym. It's not only for vanity reasons why I go there. I don't only go to the gym to stay beautiful. I go
yeah,
there.
it's maybe a good side effect.
Yes, of course. It's a very good side effect. But that's not the only reason why I go there. Even the fasting, it's not for weight loss, really. Yes?
Yeah, the fasting topic is quite famous, and I get that. And there are a lot of studies ongoing, but most studies you must know are from rodents, and we can't translate science from rodents into humans.
So easily.
So yeah, actually, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so easily we see that this is an impact on longevity in rodents and in worms and something like that. So, but if it's possible to translate it into humans, becomes quite hard.
Mm-hmm.
There's one study ongoing since I guess 25 years with monkeys. Um, Currently, no one will accept that out of ethical reasons, but 25 years ago, this project was approved and still running. So we will see if, but even that won't be directly transferable.
Mm-hmm.
And if you talk about fasting, what is fasting for you? You told me that you have sometimes a 7 day of fast, you
Mm-hmm.
have 14 days of fast, you
Mm-hmm.
have 21 days of
Oh,
fast.
yes.
Then otherwise, some people think fasting or talking about fasting is having a time restricted eating manner, which means 16 to 8 or something like that. That is fasting. And Yeah, there's some good studies. One recently, I guess, published by Zoe, which is a firm in UK, which takes, I don't know if you know them, but they look at blood glucose levels and try to give you a custom tailored eating manner
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that you don't have the blood glucose spikes.
Yes.
And they also had a study with fasting now, and they see that the people are doing better. And we know there are some good aspects of fasting. You have a better ability of so-called autophagy.
Yes. Autophagy, we say in English.
Exactly,
Autophagy.
autophagy.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, and also your mitochondrial function could improve.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a good effect on the microbiome because there are some germs inside your stomach which come out if there's not full full time of eating.
Yes.
I recently heard that in the US, the average amount of times of eating during the day is 11 times.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can
So that
imagine.
means your blood glucose goes up,
Mm-hmm.
down, up, down, up, down, up, down.
Fluctuation.
Exactly. And you have then every time you have the blood glucose level high, then you get an insulin spike. Insulin is your hormone which brings your glucose back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
And you have again and again and again. And so maybe that's not the best.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. You are definitely right. You're touching on some topics that sound all very familiar to me. I've heard conversations on these things regarding the advantage. Nice that you also mentioned what fasting is, or you asked what fasting is for me. I tend to,
Exactly.
yes, I mix them just for, just for our listeners. I mix them. Sometimes I will do a prolonged fasting, which is 3 days, 7 days, 10 days, up to 21 days. So 3 weeks with only water, magnesium, salt, and I think potassium. That's all. And I do that for up to 3 weeks, and it's fine. More regularly, however, I do a 10-day fast, where I continue going to the gym actually, but it's not 100% fast because I'm still training, as in weights training. I continue to take amino acids that do not
Mm.
have sugar, so they don't create an insulin response.
Have you measured
Theoretically,
it?
theoretically,
Have you?
I haven't measured it. I follow what the brands say. I buy the amino acids, and they say no sugar. I know there are other things that can trigger an insulin response, so maybe it's not really fasting, but whatever the case is, I'm just drinking amino acids, which is like lemonade, going to the gym, and it seems to work for me for the 10-day
But do you have
fasting.
muscle loss?
What I have is, yes, I do have weight loss. The fat goes away for sure, yes. And funnily, because your growth hormone and testosterone go up during fasting, as of day 3, my strength actually increases. So the last time I did a 10-day fast without food, I was stronger on day 3. And on day 7, I was pushing 20% more with no food in my stomach. So, and the results were fantastic because, as far as I know, the growth hormone also goes up. So, for that 10-day period of no food, paradoxically, I got some good gains. Yes.
Yeah, but it's hard to bring everything to one issue.
What do you mean?
Maybe your sleep is better. Maybe your stress level is less.
Yes.
So these all
Play a part.
have influence exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And normally you get a weight loss. Yes, it's correct, but for the body, it's much easier to lose muscle as to start fat burning.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's a little bit, the body before touching the fat tissue, maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's easier to go for muscle mass. So I guess if you next time if you're doing that, you
Yes.
can buy some easy gadget which measuring, or maybe your gym has
Mm-hmm.
the capability or to measure your relation of or your body composition, which
Mm-hmm.
means fat mass, lean mass, and wondering if you won't see that your muscle mass is declining with days of fasting.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So that's
it is many people say that. Some people say the body goes for protein or muscle mass last. And some people, they say it goes for protein first. Yes, I prefer to believe that it burns. I tend to burn fat first. And that's the reason why I continue training, because I'm telling my body that yes, I'm in a self preserving mode because theoretically I have nothing to eat and I have to hunt. So I,
exactly.
I do the training to tell my body, keep this muscle because it's important, and instead burn the fat. That's why I train during the 10-day fast.
Okay.
So, I don't think I lost muscle mass because
Now you see the problem. There are no studies on that in human.
exactly, and that's why I thought I would be speaking from my personal experience because I mean, if I 10 days without food, I'm not a beginner with fasting. So, 10 days without food, I make notes every day in the gym. I take notes of my failure
Yeah, that's
levels
great.
and so on, and I can tell you with 100% certainty that on day 7, I was stronger, 20% stronger, and that didn't feel like something that comes from muscle loss to
Yeah,
me.
maybe you are one who is well responding to the ketogenic diet.
Could
You know,
be, could be, could
could
be, could
be.
be.
But on the other hand, I'm not sure about your. You have to, if you want to make it
Hmm.
really scientific, then you have to measure your other blood samples to
Yes.
see what about your cholesterol levels,
Hmm.
what about your
Insulin.
hormones, your insulin.
Hmm.
I guess insulin would be fine because
Oh yeah,
you
should
don't
be.
need, should have a flat curve. But you can do that next time you go with a so-called CGM, continuous glucose monitoring, and you, you can stick it into your arm, won't hurt you, and and then you see for 2 weeks
Yeah.
how your blood glucose is responding to that. And again,
Well, if you're the right man to talk to, I mean, I've done it. Fasting is getting much easier for me these days. I mean, I can fast and continue working. I can fast and continue doing sports. If you know of anyone who wants to do that kind of stuff that doesn't involve taking any strange drugs, of course, I'd be interested in checking that out and making that a little more scientific. But I'll agree with you on one thing. When I did not the 10-day fast, but the 21-day fast,
mm,
I did not do any sports and I didn't take any amino acids,
yeah, okay,
right? And
yeah,
I think at that time I did lose muscle mass. 3 weeks no
okay,
food, and I wasn't training, as in telling my body, listen, keep this muscle because you need it. Yeah. So I did lose muscle mass and I did lose strength. But when I do 10 days without food and take amino, I don't lose any strength or muscle mass.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe 10 days is not that long.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is, but I don't know how it is long run. You have to measure if you want to go deep. Then you have to measure it through the years to see how is my muscle mass at the end of the year. I did 2 episodes of fasting of 10 days and next year, and I did the same, and then you can compare it.
Yes.
But you see, the problem with that is there are no randomized controlled trials, and with randomized controlled trials means that you have group of people which are split it up into two halves, and one half is getting the treatment, let's call it treatment, and the other is they stay as they are, maybe
A
with
placebo.
your fasting program. Exactly, and then see on long term, which is 5 weeks or something like that, which means years, to see who's doing better. So
Mm.
no studies. I guess which we know is that from the fasting, if it's time restricted eating or whatever, we have a reduced caloric intake.
Mm-hmm.
And this seems to be one key of longevity and the health aspect of intermittent fasting or whatever you time restricted eating, whatever you call it.
Well, you correctly separated the fasting types because prolonged fasting is something else. That's almost a religious thing. That I only do it once a year, really, the big long one for 3 weeks, and the 10-day one I do maybe twice a year. That's something else. But for a more sustainable approach to weight loss and fitness and health, your way that you mentioned, well, I don't know if it's your way, but the intermittent fasting, as in windows, what do you call it? 16/8 time windows. That's a better, more sustainable way, I think, of doing
Yeah,
this.
I do it a long time now, and I guess I do it in during the night in the morning. I don't have any breakfast.
Yeah.
So if you slept 8 hours and then you're 2 hours before going to bed, you stop eating, then you have already 10 hours, and then it's much easier to get your 14, 16 hours window. But it's not all about intermittent fasting or whatever. It's about the correct nutrition,
As well.
It I think it won't help to go for intermittent fasting and then eating a lot of highly processed foods.
Yeah, that's true. There's a binging effect that can happen. That happened to me once. Do you know what was it, Raffaello? I came off fasting once, and I usually break my fast really slowly, but then I made a mistake once and I ate like the big pack of Raffaello. Yeah.
Maybe
Because
once in a time it's okay, but
yeah, I did that. But you're right. It's also a mix of proper nutrition. And since I'm taking more care of my body as well, I do pay more attention to what I eat. I actually like sauerkraut, for example, these days. Also good for the microbiome.
yeah, you should have once a day fermented food. If it's sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir,
Oh,
yogurt, once a day you should take fermented food for your gut microbiome.
really? I break my
Yeah,
fast with that,
yeah,
usually.
that's
And yogurt.
great.
Mm.
Yeah, I do it with my own made kefir.
Oh, okay. That sounds very scientific.
Oh no, it's not very scientific. You buy whatever kefir you get,
Mm-hmm.
and then you put a bit of kefir
Yeah.
into a glass,
Yeah.
and then you put milk on it. I would say 1/4 of kefir and the rest normal milk.
Yeah.
Uh, could be Haarmilch, yeah,
Yeah.
and leave it at room temperature for 24 hours. I do it for plastic saving reasons. So normally you get the kefir bottles only in plastic bottles, and I tried it, and yeah, it's working.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And no, I guess I saved a
Good.
lot of plastic. So that's easy hack.
Yeah. That's also good because you're actually touching on the sustainability aspect of healthy eating and
Exactly.
this whole fasting movement, taking care of our bodies and so on. Because a part of the fasting thing, I'll tell you this, it also satisfied a part of me whereas I think I said it, this is actually something I benefit from. It is reduced consumption because I've saved so much money during fasting from food because I wasn't eating, so I wasn't buying anything. I'm actually benefiting from it and it's tax free. So I felt really happy to be actually benefiting from something and I don't have to pay taxes on it. So that in itself, it is a kind of a defiance, right? Whereas for sustainability is good because, the root of many sustainability problems is overconsumption. And so the satisfaction, the fulfillment that I get from fasting is not just, feeling strong and healthy and maybe more beautiful. Yeah. It's also the idea that I'm actually doing something for the environment and reducing our problem in the world with overconsumption. The idea as well. I mean, I've had some difficult times in Berlin, and sometimes I just didn't have enough money. Yeah. And what it meant to me, the fasting is actually a very symbolic kind of activity. And this is more on the prolonged fasting. As I said, that's something else. It's almost a religious kind of thing. It shows you that we do not need to overconsume, right? And that is, I mean, that's another topic for another podcast. But on the political side of it, right? I mean, we're so driven to overconsumption by all this industry that wants us to buy all this sugar, all this processed food, and waste so
You should
much.
should avoid highly
Yeah.
processed. Let's call it
Yes.
highly processed.
Yes.
If you talk about yogurt, it's per se a processed food because it's not
Yeah, but you're
totally.
doing it yourself. That's the thing.
Yes, what I told you, the human body is not made to eat 24 hours a day, or maybe have
Yes.
six. Then so you see these spikes and ups and downs and up and down the glucose roller coaster, let's call it like that. The human body is not made for that. We have genes, and we stick to the genes or to the habits of the human body. So it's, if you think about 20,000 years back, we were in the ice tide,
Yes.
so
Yes.
and there was no ability to having food all the day and having. That's why your brain is so addicted to glucose. It's burning fuel, and but it was not accessible everywhere to have directly glucose, and now you have access to everywhere. We have
Yes.
so many
Yes.
grocery stores, so many highly processed food,
Mm-hmm.
and so on. And do you know that if you have people giving the same amount of calories in processed food and natural food, the people with the highly processed food will go for 300 to 400 calories more a day. So
Okay. So it's
see,
like the dopamine system. It's like I don't know. Is it a
it's
reward system, like an over
e-
reward for sugar or what?
yes, a bit of that
Mm-hmm.
naturally, but on the other hand, you have the highly processed food because your glucose is totally responding, or your system is totally differentiated, responding to having finely grained wheat, or having properly sourdough bread, for example. You know, so
Ah,
it's totally different. And calories are not calories. 2,000 calories from carrots are not equal to 2,000 calories of um, some sweets.
yes, yes, yes. I've heard that before as well. As a not exactly equal, but another aspect is that, and I'll just add to that. I think if we have highly processed food is probably made for our digestion. But if it's not that processed, then there is stuff that is not so easily digestible by us, but by the microbiome.
Your microbiome needs stuff which is not easily
Exactly.
digestible. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
so you have an influence on your microbiome, and if you go farther, we call it epigenetic.
Oh,
Maybe
yes.
you heard it, and this means you how do you act and your environment and so on. You have influence on your genes, so you're
Yes.
not stick to your genes, so you can influence switching genes on and off. So, and yeah, food is one part of that, because you have to think about it. This is immer eine fremde Sache, die man zu sich nimmt. It's,
Ja, das
you know,
stimmt. Das stimmt. Also, ja, ja. Also, diese Epigenetik-Topic ist wirklich heiß heutzutage, ne? Also, viele reden jetzt davon.
yes, there's one twin study in UK,
Yes.
eineige Zwillinge,
Mhm, mhm.
and both developed, and it was shown that up to 80% is your behavior and your environment.
80%.
Up
80%. That
to
sounds
up
quite a
to
lot. That sounds quite a lot. But, well, yes. All right. I have to see that study. You know, we can. 80% sounds a lot, Christopher.
yeah, let me figure out. Let me figure out if I can find it.
Yeah. But it
Um,
depends on what, maybe the immune system response or hormone expression or
I guess it's from the Department of Twin Research and Epigenetic or Genetic Epidemiology at King's College London. I think so.
well, you know, you could be right. It depends. 80% of what? I
Up to
don't know.
80%. Yeah, but
I don't know.
it shows you only that you're not sticked to your genes to improve your health condition, your lifespan, your lives free of disease, which is for me much more important as lifespan.
Yes, yes, yes. So we have
Um,
influence on our genes based on basically our environment, the things we eat, and so on.
exactly.
Yes, yes. That is very promising. That's a very promising thought. But you know, before we go into epigenetics, which I think is a huge thing, we wanted to talk about health, well, fitness for men over 40
Yeah.
and fasting and cardiovascular health. I have a question for you. I can speak from my experience in terms of hormones and how I feel, but if the act of fasting, whether it be intermittent fasting or prolonged fasting, affects your growth hormone and your testosterone, how would that, you think, play out on and just anecdotally, nothing, you know, you don't have to pull any science now, but what do you think might be the effect on your cardiovascular system, growth hormone and testosterone at over 40?
That's a good topic because if it's too much, both are hormones which are used as doping.
Mm-hmm.
So then you see the result.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so if you use a lot of growth hormone or testosterone, you get very bulky.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you won't get that bulky.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it reminds me to the famous, I guess they are Belgian cows, which are so muscular.
Oh
Maybe you
yes,
have
yes,
to.
yes. I know. I've seen them.
You won't go that way without maybe these kinds of drugs. So you see and on the cardiovascular health system, this is not good to have so much drugs. So
But,
um,
you know, let's be clear. I'm not
but
talking about doping. You know, I'm not talking
that's why
about
I only want
no
I want
injections, no
exactly. I
injections.
only
Yes.
want to point that out that
Mm-hmm.
if you're having too much, and at the end of the day, I don't know if the aspect will hold that long with growth hormone and testosterone. If you have a long fasting period, I don't know the scientific background, to be honest. If there are increasing values of the we know that we have with increasing age loss of testosterone
Mm-hmm.
in men.
Yes.
Maybe that's one reason. Also in women, even women have a bit of testosterone,
Yes.
and with increasing age, we are losing testosterone, and maybe that's one reason why we have the so-called sarcopenia, the loss of muscle. So this could help to increase your muscle mass and strength, or maybe beibehalten,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to keep or maintain.
to maintain would be the proper term, I guess. Yeah.
Yes.
And the growth hormone, yes, it's also good. You need maybe both, but to be honest, then you have to measure growth hormone and testosterone, which is not that easy to measure, because to see what is the normal value, I don't know. Some laboratories give you values, but you don't know if that's really the proper value and what is the optimal value. So,
Yes.
and both are also influenced by sleep.
Yeah.
If
And
you have good
stress.
sleep and stress level, it declines. So this is very hard to break down hormones to one behavior.
Well, I just wanted to, from your experience, the effect on cardiovascular health, because I do feel as if, let's say my cortisol, let's see, prolonged fasting is stressful. Yes. And
Exactly, and this is then at the end it is incremental too.
yeah.
If you have too much cortisol, then you won't have the best benefit.
Yeah.
This is
Yes.
the problem. So you can't have the cake and eat it. Maybe.
Yes. That is true. That is true. Well, I don't know. I mean, I've had definitely some positive effects in terms of growth and, testosterone. I mean, I won't go into I won't go so deep into all the benefits that I've seen
There's
from
a
them.
study ongoing. I don't know the term of the study, but they getting growth hormone as well as a drug to lower the sugar in the blood and to see if you can have an effect of reverse aging.
Reversing aging.
It's another topic. It seems to be
Yes.
maybe possible if you trust the data, but
Oh dear.
so far there's no long-term studies. But you can measure the age by the so-called Harvard's clock, the genetic aging.
Yes.
And then you see a response to that if you go for intermittent fasting, going for proper sleep, and going for good glucose control and training. You see that the people respond, that they losing age in these measurements. But if effect on the long term, I don't know, but only short term studies to that. But they measure your epigenetic clock at the beginning of the study, and then at the end of the study, and they see that they're losing sometimes some years. So
Wow.
we will
That's
see.
we will see, but I mean, tell you what, I mean, we've touched on quite a lot. We had some heavy topics today, right? I just want to make it clear, that I like my age, to be honest, and
Okay,
this is
that's a
not
good
about
point. Yeah.
this is not about time fighting, okay?
No, no, no.
It's just about finding a nice balance. I like my age. I feel the wisdom, the knowledge I have right now, the self-confidence, the experience in life, and so on, and also the not being so easily distracted, this Ausgeglichenheit. Yes, I really do like this stage of life, and it's not about trying to sell anyone any kind of
Yeah.
age reduce. It's not time fighting. That's not what I'm trying to do, or I wouldn't try to encourage that right now either. If anybody wants to
Well,
do that
for
on
me,
their
it's not
own, it's
time fighting.
fine.
It's about
It's not time
staying.
fighting.
No, for me, it's not time fighting. For me, it's the
Okay.
aspect to staying fit and having the ability in the age, not thinking about, do I want to go skiing or maybe riding through the Mongolian desert as
Aha.
maybe a holiday
With your son.
with my son and a grandson or whatever.
You
You
want
know what I mean?
grandson? What? I
Oh
didn't
no,
know you were that far along.
you mean what I don't want to think in the age of 75. Can I go skiing? I only want to think about, do I like to go skiing?
Okay, I understand. I understand what you're saying. We have had a wonderful little talk today. We touched on many things. And I don't want to stress I don't want to stress myself too much. I'm actually just coming from the gym now. I work chest today, so the
Yeah,
girls,
yeah,
the girls feel really nice. Yes. And
okay.
before we go though, I just want to ask, is there anything in particular that probably you want to ask me, first of all, and second of all, where or what's the best way people can find your podcast?
Okay. First, yeah, we talked about
Mm-hmm.
in the last 2 weeks. We talked in private about some things that I won't ask you.
Mm-hmm.
So
Ah,
maybe one question would be, how can people find you? And in one current context, do you offering some um, tailored, maybe tailored lessons to some
mm-hmm.
special. For
Yes, well,
example, my wingman is an architect and uh, opened an office in the US, and
mm-hmm.
he told me it was a bit of stress, or not stressful, but 1 week of speaking full day foreign language could be a little bit stressful. I know that
Mm-hmm.
from my own, but mostly when I'm on a congress meeting, I meet some people from Germany, and then you speak in German, blah 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 blah, and but then you have full day of talks only in English, and then you have to yeah, sometimes this can be stressful. So do you have any custom tailored programs or something like that?
Yes, yes, indeed, I do. Well, I've been doing that now for many years, and the the special thing about what I do and how I do it is I offer context because I work here in Germany as an English teacher for the most part. However,
Mm.
I've studied many things. I've worked in the construction industry. I've worked in well, let's say in government, so to speak. I've worked in light and heavy industry. I've worked in retail. I've worked in social work here as well. And all of these things I use them to enrich my English training practice that offers context to people who want to use the language for work. Now, the way I do this is by first understanding what it is they do as a profession. And I can understand these things a little bit better because I did them myself. For example, your friend in architecture, I worked 6 years in construction, worked very closely with architects. So I value his profession. I'm not just going to come to him and give him grammar rules. I can bring context. And that is what differentiates what I do from what, let's say, someone who just purely teaches grammar rules does,
Exactly. This
right?
is you're teaching in a context manner,
So
right?
I give context. And the thing is, as well, with adults, is that you cannot just come and say, listen, you have to learn this and that without giving them an idea of why. So I also offer a kind of a Wertschätzung, an appreciation of who they are and their own professional achievements as well before I try to teach them anything. Right? Because I don't need people to come to classes with me feeling as if they're just generally weak. Right? I need them to feel that I appreciate what it is you do. I understand what you do. I even discussed in their own language, which is German. And then when they feel appreciated, then I bring what it is that I have to teach. Right. So that's my usual approach. I call it learning is relational. And I try to build learning relationships with people who feel appreciated. That's how
Okay.
I do it. And then after that, I just say, okay, what do you do? Show me what you have to do in German. Probably they do a presentation in German. I understand the presentation. We translate it together. Then they do it in English. And I can then shape the language with them because I know what they want to say.
Okay.
That's how
Then
I do
let
it.
me give let me give you a second question. As we talked about a lot of health and cardiovascular health and so on, and I
Mm-hmm.
do a lot of prevention. And just yes or no question: do you know your lipid levels, your cholesterol levels?
No.
Okay. So, and second, do you know how your
Mhm.
blood pressure is?
Sometimes, well, it
Have you measured
depends.
it?
It depends on who I'm with.
Okay. No, no, yeah, so that's
I
totally,
haven't measured it
yeah,
in a while. I haven't measured it in a while, and I should because I think black men and even Jamaican men are genetically predisposed to high blood pressure or
maybe, yeah.
problems having to do
They
with that. Yes.
should get a different medication if they have blood pressure, high blood
Mm-hmm.
pressure. They should get had
Lipid
it.
level. No, I do not know my lipid level, and I do not know
Oh,
my blood pressure. Right,
okay.
but I
So,
try to I try to keep these things. I use training for everything. I
but do
train a
you know
lot, and
your long-term blood glucose level? You don't have to do that regularly.
no,
Oh, so
no. I only know
so
I think I know my blood group. That's it.
okay.
Yeah,
And
that's
do
the only
you
thing I
know
know about
the
my blood.
okay? Do you know the number one cause of death?
The number one cause of death. Moment. Stress.
No, cardiovascular disease.
Come on, it's stress. All right. Well, I
No.
didn't know.
So,
I didn't know.
okay. And do you know the risk factors for cardiovascular diseases or for heart attacks and so on? Smoking, hyperpressure, diabetes, which means long-term high elevated sugar. So,
Mm-hmm.
and you see, you are not smoker, okay, fine, but the rest you don't know. Cardiovascular disease means heart attack and so on, and that heart attacks, for example, are not a disease of age. It's half of the men who getting a heart attack get these in the age 50% getting that in the age before 60.
So that is very interesting. That's very interesting. And what are the leading causes then of these cardiovascular issues?
High cholesterol levels, high blood pressure, diabetes, genetic predisposition, smoking,
Mm-hmm.
so and no sports, or well, let's call it maybe not. It shouldn't have to be sport. Let's say it's couch potato. So you see there are a lot of things you should check.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yes, 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 yes.
we talked a lot
Well,
about sports and going deep into the rabbit hole of time restricted eating and the health, but there are so many steps before. Yeah.
when I stopped thinking about cholesterol, I stopped thinking about cholesterol when I recognized that there was once a study that said I should not eat egg yolks, egg yellow. And
Mm.
I stopped for a while, and then I saw another one that says I shouldn't eat beef fat.
Mm.
And and
It's
and
true.
then there was one
Totally.
that says I should eat butter, not margarine. Then they said margarine, not butter, and then again butter, not margarine. And then I just kept seeing contradicting things. Like, for example, beef fat is not really that bad, actually. So I started eating my
Mm.
steaks again, and then with egg yolks, I used to eat 2 eggs a day, but sometimes I eat four. you know.
This is really probably too much. So there are some studies which say you can eat up to 3, 4 eggs a week, not a day. Um, there are so many literature out there. There's some good, very good literature, very deep in a lot of nutrition topics, about eggs, talking about fish, and but to make that short, at the end, it should be a which seems to be the best diet. Actually, it's maybe the if you talk about diet, it's maybe the Mediterranean way, but let's face it, it is a lot of plant-based
Mm-hmm.
nutrition
Olive oil.
with olive oil, exactly, which was native olive oil, because with omega-3 fatty acids, and with a lot of nuts and
Lemon juice.
legumes.
Legumes
Lemon
as well.
juice, maybe not.
Yes.
Legumes.
Yes, yes, yes,
Okay.
I know that. Yeah, legumes. Yes. Yes.
So if you go into the traditional Italian cuisine, you see a lot of legumes.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's correctly
Legumes.
pronounced.
Leg
Legumes
legumes. Mm-hmm.
with a lot of olive oil and herbs. You should
Mm-hmm.
use a lot of herbs. Petersilie, for example, or turmeric and chili and you can use every herb. Zimt, cinnamon. You should eat a rainbow. It's often called like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, well balanced.
my kids call it, Papa, guck mal, was ich für einen bunten Teller habe. So,
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's good. Well,
so
you know what? Christian, tell you what, you have asked me, Christopher, keep saying
yes,
Christian. I am sorry about that. You have
no,
asked me some questions that I could not answer. And even though I consider myself a health conscious individual who is not health obsessed, because sometimes I eat, as I said, a whole pack of Raffaello.
but these are the
Um,
basics. So that's why I
yeah,
asked you that.
yeah, and I couldn't even answer. So, what I could ask you right now, because you are a man, you have been occupied with this for quite a while. And since this is a cross promotional episode, maybe you have one episode, a starter episode that you could recommend right now for anyone who's in my position and wants to
Yes.
know about these basics. Yes, the lipids, the insulin, and what else was it again?
It was not about insulin. It was only just measurement. It's called HbA1c. It's a value which can take you. It's taken by blood, and you see how the blood glucose level was in the last 3 months. Let me figure out which episode it was. I have to check
Yeah,
my. It was my podcast is called Herz Check. You can link it
yes.
maybe,
Yeah,
which
I
would be
definitely will. I definitely would.
would
I mean,
be
you can tell me afterwards, but I just need to give something to the listeners now to be
yes.
able to start with. What you got me with were those vital statistics, so to speak. The blood pressure, the lipids, and some other things. That you should be concerned with as a man over 40.
It's not only for men, but it's only for
Yes, but we're
everybody.
focusing on men today. We're talking about men today. As everything is for the ladies. Today is for the men.
And ladies, welcome. Okay,
No!
it's not like a traditional barbershop. Go, go,
Oh, okay,
go.
okay. Ja. Da
Uh,
können die auch, ja.
yeah, inside the podcast, it's part 3 of cardiovascular condition. It's called coronary Herzerkrankung, which means cardiovascular disease in English, or
Yes.
ASCVD, atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease. And it's part 3. It's called coronare Herzerkrankung Teil 3, Prävention und Vorbeugung.
Danke.
It's released on 30th of May last year. Only
Fantastic.
17 minutes.
Okay.
Only 17 minutes, maybe to change your life to better.
Yes. Yes. That's good. That's good. That's
I
good.
try to make the podcast episodes quite short because a lot of listeners don't want to hear so many health issues,
Yeah. I try to reduce mine as well. I mean, I've gone to like 2 hours before, but these days it's average 45 minutes for each show.
Yeah, it's fine. I love it. It just time goes by. It's like a short fly.
Yeah, but it's a short life. Okay, Christopher.
Reverse
I
aging.
think we. Yeah. Time fighting. Well, okay. All right, fine. It has been wonderful, sir. Yes, I thoroughly
Thank you very
enjoyed
much.
our little talk today. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for the answers.
Not all,
Yeah.
maybe, with growth hormone and testosterone. It's hard to figure out how your growth hormone and testosterone is after 20 days of fasting, but yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
well,
keep
I
in
can
touch.
tell
Maybe
you, it's crazy. It's crazy. Maybe you can tell me who's willing to pay me lots of money to test my levels and do a study.
but the test I mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
lipids and HbA1c and so on, are basic tests which can be used by a general practitioner.
Yes, of course. Well, I don't know. Maybe somebody wants to make a new tea that they want to sell, and they want to use me as a study. I would be happy to do that if they
Yeah,
want.
yeah, maybe.
Who knows? Who
So
knows,
I don't know. But maybe you find out someone is listening to your podcast and says, "That's my man."
Oh, yes. Yes. If they want to, I don't know. As long as I don't have to like do anything extra, I just do what I was doing before and then they take the values and, if they make 10 million, they can give me two.
Studies mostly are not, you know, especially in that area, studies are hard to finance because there are no new drugs tested. That's why you won't find so many randomized controlled trials to easy life changes. No one is willing to pay a lot of money for it. Every study, if you go it in a really scientific way, costs a lot of money,
Yeah.
and no one is willing to pay a lot of money for no reimbursement.
The people who I find promoting fasting and selling something from it, they sell food baskets. So they sell like they have like recommended groceries or people who produce foods that fit to the fasting lifestyle.
Okay.
So, they sell the teas, they sell the supplements, they sell, all
Mm.
these other little things that are supposedly good. The supplements that will help you to, not only lose some weight, so around the belly fat area, but also to retain your hair, things
Yeah,
like
good.
that.
Hey, yeah, you can really go deep into that. Yeah, but well, maybe we can go for a episode once to get a bit deeper into body fat composition and so on. Fat is
Mm-hmm.
not fat. You told me you're losing fat. If you're losing subcutaneous fat, it's subcutaneous fat is not that detrimental to the so-called visceral fat, which means it's the fatty
Mm-hmm.
tissue inside your stomach.
Around the organs.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
This is fatty tissue which fires a lot of hormones which are not friendly fire.
Yeah, yeah, that's really a problem. I kid you not. The belly fat, my little plauzer is very stubborn. And like for example, tomorrow I'll be doing HIIT training.
I'm too.
I'll be doing HIIT tomorrow.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. That works. That works. When I keep it up, if I can do it twice a week, I actually see results really fast.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
so. But du kannst nicht steuern, wo der Körper Fett abbaut.
Ja, das stimmt, das stimmt.
That's
Das
normal.
weiß ich, das weiß ich. Es ist einfach überall, ne? Aber zum Beispiel beim Abdominal Exercises, ja, da versuche ich ein bisschen aufzubauen, trotzdem, dass wenn das ganze Fett weg ist, dann gibt es auch irgendwas da, ne, zu sehen. So
Das ist
ich, ja,
cool.
ja, also mache es stark trotzdem, aber wenn das alles weg ist, dann gibt es auch irgendwas zu sehen. Ja? Deswegen mache ich Abdominals. Ansonsten mache ich Hit auf diese Skimaschine oder normaler Laufband oder sie nennen Cycle oder so. Ne? Ja, ja.
The most common hit protocol is 4-on-4. So means
Which one is that?
4-on-4 is
Ah,
normal
yes, 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 yes.
4 minutes of
For
high, really 4 minutes
intensity.
of high intensity. It's
Mm-hmm.
around 90% of HR max,
Mm-hmm.
which means high frequency max, and
Mm-hmm.
then 3 minutes maybe cooling down, and then 4 minutes again. That's about it. But you can also go. I don't know. Can you call it hit if you're doing Tabata? Maybe. Yeah. You're
I
going for
do
40 seconds. and then 20
Mm-hmm.
seconds off. But in the 20 seconds, your heart rate is not declining that steep that it's on the resting heart rate, so you still stay high.
Because I'm older, I really pay attention to the heart rate. Yeah, so I go on and I check first. I hold the thing, I check to see what my rested heart rate is, and then I warm up just slightly and go for maximum sprint until I get to a really high heart rate. I think it's like, is it 160?
No, could be.
And I do that for 30 to 45 seconds.
Hmm.
And then I stop. I go slow all the way down until I get back to rested. And when I'm at rested again, then I do another sprint. In all, I will do 3 or 4 sprints. And that takes a lot of time. It takes the same time as I would take, a whole. If I do like 4 sprints where I wait for my basal heart rate to come back, it takes in
Hmm.
all about 25, almost 30 minutes, because I really do wait for it and
Okay.
and do
But
4 sprints. Yeah.
you can measure it. Your VO2 max. Do you have any wearable device? Some smartwatches can
No,
measure
no.
estimated
I
measuring.
I found that quite interesting because you said that VO2 is the maximum amount of oxygen you can burn. No?
Wie viel Sauerstoff pro Minute pro Kilogramm verarbeitet werden? Also die maximale Menge an Sauerstoff, die der Körper verarbeiten kann. Das heißt, es zeigt an, das ist einfach die sogenannte kardiorespiratorische Fitness. Also das heißt, wie viel
Mhm.
Sauerstoff verarbeiten.
Mhm.
Und je höher der Wert ist, desto besser bin ich in Form.
Mhm. Oh, okay, 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 okay.
You
Ja,
can you
gut.
can
Aber es gibt
also
Gewicht und Gewicht, ne? There's fat weight and also muscle
yeah, but
weight and
yeah,
water weight.
it's independent. It's only a value.
Mhm.
It's influenced by all these conditions, but it's a value
Mhm.
for you personally. The proper test is a so-called spiroergometry,
Mhm.
which is you're sitting on a bike, having a mask on your face.
Oh ja.
This mask is measuring the oxygen going in and the carbon dioxide going out and in and
Ja.
out, and measuring how your maximum with speed and heart rate, and then giving you the value, and you can see how long are you training in the aerobic condition and then in the
Mhm.
anaerobic condition and so on. There's a lot of things you can add, but this would be the best measurement.
Mhm.
It's a
Yes, I
gold
have
standard.
visions of that. Yes, yes. The
But
gold
the
standard.
watches for normal purpose, the
Mhm.
watches are estimate a value. It's only to give you a clue about am I in the top level or am I in lower level? And you see if you go from lower level into the higher medium level, you have the best benefit.
That sounds so complicated.
It's not complicated. It's a little bit science, but you can increase your VO2 max by going for long endurance runs or going
Mhm.
for HIIT training. But maybe if you go next time running, you can go
Mhm.
one session running 1 kilometer,
Mhm.
measuring the time to run this 1 kilometer with maximum purpose, and then walking the next second. You walk the time you needed for the first kilometer. Then you're going for the second kilometer
Mhm.
after this time, and then measuring again the time, and then you walk again for that time it took you to finish the second kilometer. And then you
Oh my
take that
goodness.
for, yes, it looks quite nice. If I measure that, you see the heart rate bumps up, stays
Yes.
there for the kilometer, and then slowly decrease, and then bumps up. And so maybe try this.
Well, I could. But there's all this emphasis on cardiovascular training. Also ich meine, they call it cardiovascular training as in endurance, as if as if endurance training is the only thing that is good for the heart. Actually, there are other
Mm.
things that are good for
No,
the
no,
heart,
no,
like
no, no.
strength training too, right?
Exactly. Strength training too. The current recommendation of the WHO is 150 minutes of moderate intensity endurance or
Mhm.
75 minutes of vigorous endurance and
Mhm.
twice a week of strength training. But I guess you can get more if you do more.
I appreciate that. It's good to hear that, strength training is also good because I want to feel good, I don't do enough cardio. I should do more.
Yeah, maybe. Or you can go for, if you, at the end of the day, as you said, sustainability is the most important issue. You should use a program where you can sustain lifelong with. Yes. I do some kettlebell workouts. So it's a combination of strength and endurance training. If you do kettlebell complex exercises 4, 5,
Mm-hmm.
6, 7 in a row, you're totally exhausted. You
Mm-hmm.
doing the 4 rounds and 25 minutes and you are destroyed.
Yes. Yes. I work with a little kettlebell too. It goes together with the hit. Yes, on
So
days where I'm not pushing
you're
weights.
doing a lot of correct. So
Yes, and I can handle it.
this makes
I
you
can
fun.
handle it.
At the end of the day, you should have fun with it. Sometimes it's not so much fun to doing your sport. Sometimes you should take it like I have to brush my teeth
Mm-hmm.
like that. I have to do my exercises.
Yeah. Oh man, we should continue with this another time. Yes,
Exactly.
I hope
Yes.
so. I hope so. So hopefully, I'm gonna take about. I think I'll need about a week or maybe I don't know to publish this, right? But I'm looking forward to it. I'll cut out some little promotions here and there, and we both look good on video today.
I would
So I'll.
do a promotion too. Maybe I make a screenshot and
Yes. You can. You can. I didn't
just
say anything too detrimental.
and then I say thank you for the invitation by the grand Ian Patterson this
Yeah.
podcast talking
Yes.
about exercise and
Mm-hmm.
intermittent fasting and cardiovascular.
Then time fighting. Yes.
Yeah, that's your turn. Not about time
Yes.
fighting. I told you. For me,
I
it's
know.
yeah. There are a lot
I know.
of people who are going for longevity, and for me, it's maybe more the issue staying fit and healthy. But you must say, even if you do everything correct, there's no guarantee. It's only about increasing your chances.
Indeed. All right. Good. I am definitely looking forward to the next one. And you have told us where we can find your podcast. You have told us the name. And yeah, I think we should call this one a day. Let's see. We are at 1 hour and 17 minutes, sir.
Oh, it's good.
When is the last time you had such a long podcast?
It's very long. You should maybe cut a little bit.
Yes. I will cut a little bit. All right. So, sir, as I always say, with a small win is a good way to begin. Thanks again, Christopher.
Thank you.
And I'm looking forward to our next episode together. You get to choose the topic.
I'm looking forward too. All right.